A good intellectual friend that I have on Facebook asked a very simple question that I think merits a nuanced response that veers into the realm of phenomenological philosophy. Why isn't the mind control equally effective on all of us? And I started writing a response, and I said, you know what? I'm just going to turn it into a video, as so often happens when I'm talking to this particular dude. The adults around me, when I was a child, were rarely as intelligent as they pretended to be, and were usually incompetent, screwed up, and full of shit. Nonetheless, I remained deferent and respectful to them, because really, you don't have much of a choice when you're a kid, right? As I became an adult, I look back with bitterness and anger at those idiots and liars, and also disgust at myself for not telling them they were fucking scumbag morons right to their face at the time, as they deserved. And so, motivated by rage, contempt, and a lust for some kind of justice, I developed the ability for critical thought. So I regard authority figures, that includes the media, with distrust and disdain, and rarely believe that they have my, or we the people's, best interest in mind. So that's my story. I don't know about why others are red-pilled. I'm guessing for similar reasons. Let me know in the comments below, please. Conversely, I assume people who were coddled or surrounded by more or less competent or at least adequate teachers and parents didn't have enough reason to become critical thinkers and thus never acquired the mindset of healthy skepticism and cynicism. And in many cases, they will stay asleep for their entire lives. Now, in both cases, whether you're a cynic or a skeptic like me, or just stumbling through life as a blue-pilled zombie, the childhood parents and teachers inform how much power we want to give the government as we're adults. The zombies miss mommy and daddy and the nice teachers they had who probably gave them marks for doing basically nothing, right? And don't forget, I was a teacher for a while teaching critical thinking at Concordia. Okay, let me finish. And they want government to be their mommy and daddy now. I want the government to mostly just fuck off, and I'm sure many of you who are listeners of mine, who are viewers of mine, you probably feel the same way. Now, as is so often the case, I feel like I'm preaching to the choir, but of course, one of the main reasons that I do what I do here on YouTube is to articulate the thoughts that you probably already have, because hearing me articulate these thoughts is then something useful for you, so that when you go out into the world amongst the zombies and the sheeple, you will have these thoughts articulated hopefully eloquently, or at least thoughtfully, in your mind, and then you can use that to fight these idiots. So let's parse out some of the things that I'm saying here. I think it goes beyond an analogy to say that so many lefties want the government to be their parents now. And like there's an analogy between their parents when they were growing up who did everything for them and let them get away with fucking bloody murder, and their teachers that they had that, you know, just do this, do X, Y, and Z. Just write this on the test. Okay, here's your marks. Here you go. Oh, you think you deserve higher marks? Okay, whatever. Here are your marks. They want the same sort of relationship with government. Just to do everything for them and to control them and just tell them what to think and tell them what to feel. And people like that, for whatever reason, there wasn't the stimulus in their childhood, or maybe it can come later in life, you know. And I'm going to say that taking a red pill isn't a one-time deal. You have to take your daily dose of red pills. You have to be skeptical and critical in your thinking every single day. Okay? But these people, lefties, libtards, the people who are susceptible to mind control, for want of a better word, it is a good word for it, mind control, a good phrase for it, have no desire to be critical, have no desire to be skeptical, because they don't look back on their childhood and say, yeah, you know, my parents were kind of fucked up. Or maybe they do, but they just accept it. Or yeah, maybe my teachers kind of didn't challenge me. Or maybe they did and they were wrong to. They challenged me on the wrong things. And so on and so forth. There's too many people out there that just, you know, what's that phrase? I can never remember it. They just get along to get along, or just move along to get along, or whatever it is. But they just went with the flow, and that got them through, and it's gotten them through until now. Eventually, people become red-pilled, or at least skeptical about their employers, for example, right? I think every adult with any level of sentience at some point says, you know, my boss is an idiot. My boss is a real jackass. You know, he really doesn't know what he's doing, or she really doesn't know what she's doing. She's incompetent. But they don't understand that the deeper phenomenological point of that is authorities in general, or people who pretend to be authorities, are so often incompetent or full of shit or don't know what they're talking about, or they have these like one-size-fits-all maxims. The world is black and white, this polarized way of thinking, and for whatever reason, as an employer or as your boss or your supervisor or your professor or your teacher or your parents or whatever, those calcified strictures that they use to raise you or to govern you or to tell you what the workflow process is or whatever it is, generally work out just fine. But whenever there's exceptional cases where they happen to be wrong, or where their way of doing things or their way of telling you how to do things is fucked up and inefficient or even dangerous, it's easier just to fall back on that polarized way of thinking. And too few people out there say, hey, wait a minute, and actually call them out. Doctors are another example. Some of you know me about I've recently come to understand that I have ehlers-danlos syndrome. And that's the thing, it's not just about things that happen in your childhood. All through my 20s and most of my 30s, forcing myself, listening to the authoritative advice of people saying, James, it's just conditioning, there's nothing wrong with you. I never even thought I had ehlers-danlos syndrome. But just listening to this advice from people who think they know you better than you know yourself. James, it's just conditioning, you just need to work out more. Here's the thing, I was a varsity fencer, people who know me know how much I go to the gym and stuff when I can afford to and whatever. And lo and behold, I'd keep getting injured. I would never attain that basic level of physical conditioning. Now, I realize that was a lot of bad advice that I was taking from people because I was just deferent. Oh, you know what? I got to take responsibility for myself. I got to stop complaining. Now I understand, hey, wait a minute. It would have been really nice if the healthcare system was better and if doctors had been better and said, hey, I noticed you got hypermobile joints. I had the doctor say that one time. It would have been nice if they had been competent enough to say, that could be a symptom of ehlers-danlos syndrome. That could explain many of these other problems that you're having. Never happened. Like the second or third video, I think it was the third video that I ever did on this channel, was called False Appeals to Authority. And that's really at the heart of what I'm talking about here today. People who assume that the mainstream media is an authoritative voice on what's actually happening out there in the world. People who assume that what the government tells you to do is good advice. People who assume that the police are to be obeyed at all times. Say, I'm not saying disobey the police, but you look at this police state that we're suddenly living under, and you look at how many times police don't even know the laws. That's a frequent occurrence. When I was, did the mandatory course to be a security guard, and there was an ex-cop teaching it, and as the training course would go on into the early evening, and he was starting to get tired, and he would just start telling us stories instead of actually teaching us what he was supposed to be teaching us. And he starts talking about his time as a cop and how frustrating it became when he started to realize that young people knew the laws. You gotta watch out for I think he thought he was training cops. He forgot himself. You gotta watch out for these young people out there now. They know the laws. It's a big problem. They actually know the laws. And then he caught himself and he's like, oh, God forbid, eh? That's a problem for police when people actually know their rights and know the laws? That's a problem? That was a problem for you as a cop? It just goes to show that so many people who position themselves, who assert themselves as authorities over us in our lives, whether that's coming into my comment section and telling me how I should live my fucking life when they know nothing about me. Or that's Justin Trudeau telling us how we should be and trying to foist his ideological viewpoint and hyper-progressivism on the entire nation is fucked up. It's fallacious and you should reject it or at least be highly skeptical of it. Okay? Now, for me, again, this is an artifact of growing up in a household and going to schools where the teachers most of the time were fucking idiots. They didn't even want to be there. They felt like they weren't getting paid enough. Okay, we're talking about the Toronto school system. They felt like they weren't being paid enough and they were so hard done by. And they treated the students like fucking garbage. But when you're a little kid, you have no choice but to be deferent, to be obedient, because you want to just get through it. Hey, I know horrible stories from people that I know that were sexually molested at school and stuff like that. How could that happen? Why wouldn't you stand up for yourself? When you're a little kid, you're forced into a position of deference. This is so much of what going to school is about. Bending the knee to so-called authorities, teachers, principals. Tell me in the comments below, tell me about the times when you were deferent, when you were obedient to authority, and you really realized as you got older, holy fuck, I should have called that motherfucker out, man. Or even when you've taken advice from somebody who, for whatever reason, thought that they were some sort of authority on you, right? JP in that excellent video that went viral, what was it called? What it's like to believe everything the mainstream media tells you? He touches on that. Well, of course, they know me better than I know myself. Let me know in the comments below. What are your experiences of times when you were deferent, obedient to authority, and it really came back to haunt you or bite you in the ass or fuck you up, shit you up? Right? But for whatever reason, there's so many people out there that voted for Justin Trudeau a second time. And before I forget, I want to say, isn't it interesting what his, really the majority, the bulk of his resume is, besides his name at the top of his resume? Teacher. And that West Point Grey Academy, where he was probably molesting little girls and stuff, whatever, we don't know, hired him as a teacher and kept him on because of his name. And I've noticed that some of these fucking people that come in here to my comments or whatever, in real life or whatever, and you've probably noticed this too, that take it upon themselves to try to run your life and I'm just trying to give you advice. But no, you're speaking to me, you're speaking to us like you're an authority and like you know me better than I know myself, or like you have a better grasp on reality than I do, right? You've probably noticed that a lot of the time, sometimes anyways, these people are fathers or they're older or they're teachers. And I'm thinking about Justin Trudeau. He's a father and he was a teacher for a long time. Therefore, I understand stuff. I'm a teacher and I'm a father. I understand what's best for people because I'm a teacher and I'm a father. That's just one example, okay? That's just one example. I'm not trying to be like a social justice warrior feminist kind of fucking idiot. Because, at university, I've noticed a lot of those female professors, which I never actually studied under in my master's degree, but when I would talk with them or see their papers that they would write, or we'd have them as a guest speaker, just the utter fucking gobbledygook social justice warrior bullshit that would come out of their mouths. And I would challenge them. Too often, though, I'm a professor. I know what I'm talking about. I'm a teacher, okay? I was a teacher and I'm a father. So that somehow qualifies you to be the prime minister of this fucking country? The hubris, the arrogance to think just because you fell ass backwards into some responsibility over other people's lives, you are now somehow qualified to run a country or to mold and shape the minds of young people, right? It's a kind of dunning-kruger effect. I know many people like that, hang out with some people when I'm drunk or whatever, and this guy, oh, James, you were working out and going to the gym and stuff? Hey, I got some tips for you. Buddy. I studied weight training, not once, but twice in summer school at high school under some very good teachers, okay? I went to a jock school for my first degree. I was always around athletes. I was on the fucking fencing team for 4 years, till my body started to break down and everything, and, ehlers-danlos syndrome took its toll. Okay, I know my shit too, okay? I've read a lot of fucking training manuals and all the endless websites and all the files I have on my computer of the Navy SEALs training manual, blah, 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 blah. But no, this guy I was thinking about this one time I was getting drunk with over here in this building, used to live here. No, but James, let me show you something. You gotta do this. And it's like, dude, I don't want to talk about this right now. I've had my full of kinesiology and training theory and fucking you name it, okay? No offense, but I don't feel like talking about this right now. Like no, but I used to work out. Later on as the night goes on, I'm a father, I'm a teacher, because as a father by default, I'm a teacher. It's like, dude, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way, You are not now an authority to tell other people how to do this and how to do that just because you happen to be a dad. Or, these female professors that I'm thinking. It wasn't just female professors, but they really stand out in my mind, some of the feminist fucking morons that I had to deal with at university. And I'd butt heads with them too. Hey, don't get me wrong. Leigh Bradshaw. In my first degree, fucking wonderful woman. Oh my God, she was great. Married to a CSIS spy, actually. That's another funny story for another time. But, I just loved the way she taught me Plato's Republic. Well, but she taught us Plato's Republic and the ancient Greek philosophers. So many of the things that I say on this channel harken back to that, because I'm thinking about that phrase, which I'll butcher it, but what I mean when I say people who most seek power, the people who most have the people who have the strongest desire to wield power are too frequently the worst people to do so. Too frequently, people who want to be cops have no fucking business ever carrying a gun, okay? Too frequently, people who aspire to the highest levels of politics are the worst fucking people to run a country. Too frequently, those people who aspire to positions of power are the worst people to be in positions of power. I can't remember which Greek philosopher said that, but it's definitely a thought that comes up time and again throughout political discourse and political theory. And, I get a kick out of, I'm thinking of this person that's, I guess recently stumbled into my channel and writing comments and like telling me what it means to be conservative. You're not a conservative. This is what a conservative is. And it's like, oh, really? Oh, really? I guess when I actually challenged myself and actually worked hard to get through my political science degree so many years ago, more than a decade ago. Oh, that's just bullshit though, right? Oh, geez, James, it's pretty ironic. You're sitting here telling us you're an authority on what it means to be a conservative and on these political concepts and philosophical concepts. Where do you get off? Sounds like the pot calling the kettle black. No, because I fucking studied those things at university. I do have some right to claim to be an authority on those topics. I do. Okay, yeah, right. You're the one who talks about, and everybody knows that academia is fucking bullshit now, and that degrees are bullshit. They're toilet paper. That's why you're fucking unemployed, buddy. No. The fact of the matter is, too many students get through university now, including graduate degrees, by just stumbling ass backwards through them because professors no longer challenge their students and critical thinking is not considered an important thing. And yes, too many students and shitty professors and the administrators at universities have turned it into such that so many people with degrees are fucking morons. But that doesn't mean that just because you have a degree that degree was useless, because I and a few students that I met throughout the course of my 3 degrees actually worked, actually challenged professors, actually really critically thought about the things that we were reading. But we were in the minority, and for us, getting our degrees was a difficult thing, and we fucking earned them. We earned them. Because there it is on the table, okay? A good person has skepticism and cynicism. That's a good thing. That's what it truly means to be an adult. To be skeptical and cynical and critical in the things that you accept, whether that's what your professor tells you or the books that you're reading. That, in my mind, is what it really means to earn a degree in political science or philosophy, even psychology, whatever. They all kind of converge. And yet, those sorts of topics, those sorts of subjects are now rendered to the bullshit toilet paper degrees fucking useless. That's not my fault. That's the fault of the way things have gone in academia. And when I was teaching critical thinking at Concordia, I went through 5 or 6 different professors that were, supposedly teaching the course. I was the one, and the other teaching assistants, we were the ones really doing the work and teaching the course. And too often, okay, I would bust the student for not trying, for writing a complete bullshit answer in response to some critical thinking concept that we asked them about. And then too often, too many of the professors would say, James, you gotta lighten up. Pardon me? Just give them the marks, James. Like if the student complained, just give them the marks, just give it to them. No. They don't understand the concept, Well, I would, at that point, it's like, okay, this is my job, fuck it, all right. Ugh. But I never liked it, and I would make a bit of a fuss, but, with certain professors, too many professors, it's like, oh, James, whatever. What is that phrase? You gotta get along to move along, or what? Anyway, just go with the flow, it's fine. Too much of that is happening at universities now, and in high schools, too, I'm sure. So, yeah, just give them the marks. They bothered to put the pen on the fucking paper, give them the marks. It's horrendous. It's disgusting. So I can't blame people for thinking that university degrees are useless. Anyways, I'm kind of digressing, but in a way I'm not, because I'm talking about you have to be skeptical and critical thinking. Otherwise, you will be susceptible to brainwashing. If you think that the mainstream media is actually an authoritative voice, actually tells you just what's going on out there in the world, and they're just trying to inform you, and they're not trying to spin things, and they're not actually trying to manipulate you, that there's no political factors at play in the way that they report things. I mean, I don't know what kind of mindless fucking moron you have to be in Canada not to understand that the CBC and Globe and Mail and the Toronto Star and so much of it, and even to a small extent, the better ones like National Post and the Toronto Sun, to a smaller extent, there's always some political aspect at play. Same thing in the United States. Even Fox, as much as I love Fox, every once in a while you'll see something that's like, that's... you guys are kind of being a little bit zombie-ish here in your, Tucker's not like that. Tucker's wonderful. I saw him butting heads with Trey Gowdy the other night. That was pretty interesting to watch. But anyways, guys, this holy fuck, we're at 20 minutes. We are at 20 minutes. Holy shit. I could just go on and on and on about this. And again, I know I'm preaching to the choir a lot of the time. What do you think? Why is it that some people are more susceptible to brainwashing than others? You've heard my viewpoint. So some people just haven't had the reason to build up critical thinking skills in order to call out people that have fucked them over in the past, and then to therefore transfer those critical thinking skills to their every single day life. Taking the red pill isn't a one-time pill. It's not a vaccine. You got to take that dose every single day, and every single day call people out if it looks like they're bullshitting you, and to parse out what their motivations are in telling you the things that they're telling you, whether that's merely psychological because they're seeing the world through their own lens and they're guilty of what I call the fallacy of cognitive symmetry. There's a symmetry fallacies in general, or whether it's because they're actually trying to manipulate you or whatever it is. You got to do that on a daily basis, okay? Whereas the blue pill is just a one-time thing. You take it and you can just stay numb to the world. You're just, that's good. It's like a vaccine. Vaccinated against the truth, vaccinated against critical thinking, because there's so many people out there that have just stumbled through life ass backwards, getting whatever they want, or life has been adequate for them. There's been no real reason to step up and say, hey, wait a minute, some people who've pretended to be authorities in my life have really fucked me over. Listening to their bullshit really fucked me over. Or even if that person does realize that, they don't then realize that this is a larger problem with people who seek authority and a larger problem with people who present themselves as authorities. They don't somehow put that together. Okay? Anyways, I'm going to leave it about there. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. Please go ahead and, let loose. Tell me about your experiences of so-called authorities that were actually fallacious authorities. Thanks a lot for clicking and watching. Any money is very, very, very much appreciated. Because yes, these degrees were useless and I'm unemployed and I've got ehlers-danlos syndrome. No, cry me a river. Anyways, check out the links on the screen right about now and in the description below if you'd like to find a PayPal link. Send me a one-time donation. I could really use it. And, click like and share and subscribe and comment. All those things are always very useful. And we'll talk to you again real soon, my friends. Bye-bye.